The FBI stormed my sister's wedding just before the vows. They handcuffed the groom at the altar, dragged him out in front of 150 horrified guests, and left my mother sobbing into her champagne flute. I was not there. I was not invited. I had been cut out of the guest list long before the flowers were ordered, but I watched it all unfold on a grainy phone video from a guest I had never met. And the best part? The tip that brought the FBI there came from an anonymous source. A woman erased from the picture, but not from the truth. Have you ever been the one left off the invitation? The one who held everything together while no one saw you breaking? Stick around, because this story might sound uncomfortably familiar to you. I found out I was not invited while holding a sweating paper plate of potato salad near the lemonade cooler at my aunt's backyard barbecue. It was June, hot enough that the plastic forks bent trying to scoop macaroni, and someone had just put on a playlist that skipped every third beat. My cousin walked over from the grill, flipped her hair off her shoulders, and held a hot dog in one hand. Then she said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world, "So, are you flying in for Chloe's wedding or just driving up?" I blinked. "What wedding?" She laughed, thinking I was joking. "Oh, come on, Sarah. Chloe is finally marrying that guy." I smiled, the kind of smile people give when their insides have gone completely still. Then I mumbled something about checking on the food and walked to my car like I was not completely unraveling. I sat inside with the air conditioner blasting against my skin and stared straight ahead. My fingers trembled slightly on the steering wheel. It was not just the shock. It was the way no one seemed surprised I did not know, as if my absence had already been factored in. My name was not on the invitation. I had not even received a call. And this was not some distant cousin ceremony. This was Chloe, my baby sister. The girl I helped raise after our father died in 2012. The girl I taught to drive. The girl I stayed on the phone with the night she thought Richard was cheating, the very same Richard she was now marrying. I had driven her to college. I had sent her money when rent slipped her mind. I had been her fallback, her person, until apparently I was not. I stared down at the paper plate on my lap and thought, this is how people disappear. Quietly, casually, without a headline. I waited 2 days before I called our mother, Susan. Not because I needed to calm down. I was not even angry. I just wanted to hear her say it out loud. That they had planned all of it without me. That it had not been a mistake. That it had been a choice. She answered on the second ring, her voice smooth and bright. "Hi honey, everything all right?" I kept my voice level. "I just have a quick question. Is Chloe getting married?" A pause. A shift. I could hear the fridge door close. "Well, yes. Next month, actually." I wasn't told. She gave a small laugh. "Oh, Sarah, don't be dramatic." That word. Dramatic. The same one she used when I cried at Dad's funeral, and she told me to pull myself together. "Chloe just wanted something small," she continued. "Just family." "I am family." "Yes, but you're always so busy." Richard's parents were involved, and the venue had limited capacity. "You understand." I knew better than to say anything. "You're not mad, are you? We thought it would be easier this way. Less pressure on everyone." That was the truth. I had not been forgotten. I had been removed because I was the easy one to remove. I told her I had to go. She said, "All right, sweetheart," like nothing had fractured. We hung up. I opened my calendar and looked at the weekend of the wedding. Blink. No RSVP, no seat, no roll. I did not text Chloe. I did not post anything. I sat in the quiet and let it settle into me. Not grief, not rage, but something colder. It was not the first time I had to navigate this family's shadows. After Dad died in 2012, I had packed a bag and moved back home in under 24 hours. My mother, Susan, did not ask me to come home. It was understood. I was the oldest, the responsible one, the fixer. I cashed out my savings to pay off what was left of the mortgage, took a steady auditing job, and kept our little world turning while Chloe finished high school. I cooked, I drove her to practice, I helped write her college essays. When Chloe moved out, I kept helping. Rent money, groceries, birthday cards with cash inside. When she had panic attacks, I drove 3 hours to bring her tea. She used to cry into my lap and say she did not know what she would do without me. Then Richard Sterling came along. He showed up at Thanksgiving 4 years ago wearing expensive shoes and a blazer that screamed tech startup energy. He had that practice kind of charm that makes insecure people feel seen. Chloe lit up around him in a way that made me nervous. She looked too eager to impress. After dessert, while everyone else watched football, I ran his name through a couple of databases I had access to through my fraud investigation work. What I found was not illegal, but it was not clean either. 3 LLCs with almost no revenue, all dissolved within 14 months. A change of legal name. Multiple address changes across 2 states. It read like someone trying to stay one step ahead of a paper trail. I sat Chloe down at a coffee shop a few days later and told her gently that Richard did not seem entirely above board. She looked at me like I had kicked her puppy. She shouted, "Why are you always trying to ruin things for me? Just because you work in fraud doesn't mean everyone is a criminal." She stormed out. Later that night, Mom called. She told me calmly that if I could not be supportive, maybe I should take a step back. That I was making a big deal out of nothing. That I was, once again, dramatic. I stopped bringing it up. But something shifted. Invitations became less frequent. Conversations shorter. I found out later from a cousin that Chloe had gotten engaged 8 months ago. I had been fading out of the picture for a long time because caring too loudly got me labeled difficult. I booked a flight on a Tuesday afternoon. One way, Sacramento to Kauai. Friday morning, window seat. I did not tell anyone. I packed my clothes into a duffel bag mechanically. I rented a hidden bungalow on the North Shore, perched halfway up a slope thick with palms. The day of my flight, I wore the same jeans I had pulled weeds in the week before. The security agent asked if I was traveling for business or pleasure. I said neither. On the plane, I closed my eyes. I did not want kindness, I wanted distance. We landed in Lihue just past noon. The air hit me soft and heavy. I picked up a rental car and drove north. The bungalow was just as advertised, with wooden slats, wide eaves, and a hammock on the porch. That first night, I did not sleep much. I lay in bed watching the ceiling fan spin, thinking about what it meant to be unwanted. Not hated, not rejected, just irrelevant. The next morning, I walked down to a small cafe near the beach, ordered an iced Kona coffee, and took it to a table looking out over the water. I pulled out my phone, opened Instagram, and posted a photo of the ocean. No filters, no caption. Just the view, a chair, and my coffee. Within minutes, the viewer list lit up. Chloe, Mom, my aunts. No one messaged me. But they saw me. Not at the bridal shower, not at the planning brunch, but here on a different island. For the first time, I did not feel erased. I felt quietly, completely gone. A few days later, I woke to the sound of soft rain. I carried my laptop to the kitchen table. I remembered the last time I had used it for something personal and messy. I powered it on. I clicked into a buried folder labeled Research. Inside were subfolders tagged with variations of Richard Sterling, Nevada, and Chloe. I had collected them slowly over the years. Late nights, background checks, public records. Names that did not match, addresses that vanished, dissolutions without explanation. All of it centered around my sister's fiancé. One document stuck with me more than the others. A scanned copy of a driver's license issued to a Robert Sterling in Reno, Nevada. The photo was unmistakably Richard. Same jawline, same face, just younger. That license was attached to a company now dissolved, which had been under investigation for suspicious financial activity. No charges were filed, but the pattern was there. Richard had changed names, states, and businesses. He always landed on his feet, too clean, just slippery enough to stay out of reach. Months ago, I had sent all of this in a carefully worded email to Chloe. No accusations, just concern. She never responded, and a few days later, I found out I was blocked. I was not looking to be the hero anymore. I scrolled through the files, opened a new browser tab, and created a temporary email using a burner service. I typed slowly. To Honolulu Field Office at FBI.gov, subject, suspected identity fraud and financial crimes. Message, attached are documents regarding a man operating under the name Richard Sterling, currently residing in California. I believe this individual may be connected to prior investigations under the alias Robert Sterling. Please see the attached documents for connections to inactive LLCs, suspicious financial activity, and potential fraud. I attached the folder. No signature, no identifying marks. Just the truth. I hovered over the send button for a few seconds. This was not about revenge. It was about refusing to be complicit by standing still. If I had been erased from their lives, then I would use the space they left me for something that mattered. I clicked send. It was gone. I let the laptop screen fade to black and listened to the rain. The morning of the wedding, the air was heavy with salt and moisture. There was a strange charge in the stillness, as if the island knew something was unfolding an ocean away. I pulled on a linen dress, grabbed my journal, and made the familiar walk into town. I sat at my usual table by the window at the cafe. I opened my journal and wrote, "Today is my sister's wedding." I am not there. But I wonder who notices the gap where I should have stood. I pulled out my phone and took a picture of my coffee mug, the page of my journal, and the ocean blurred in the background. A still life of someone who had stopped waiting to be invited. I posted it to my story and set the phone face down. They all saw it. None of them messaged me, but I knew I had created a pause in their day. I imagined the wedding already in motion. Chloe in a lace dress, Richard standing stiffly in a gray suit, everything curated and perfect. I closed my journal. I did not want to be there. I wanted exactly what I had. I was back at the bungalow, boiling water for tea, when my phone buzzed across the table. Once, then twice. I walked over and flipped it face up. It was my cousin Julia. Her name lit the screen like a flare. First message, Sarah. Oh my God. Second message, go online now. Third message, no joke. CNN, YouTube, anywhere. Julia was never dramatic. If she sent 3 texts back to back with that tone, something massive had happened. I opened YouTube. My homepage was already filled with breaking news clips. Groom arrested at wedding. FBI crashes ceremony. Bride collapses as groom taken away mid-vows. I clicked on the longest video. My hand was steady, though my chest felt tight. The video opened with a shaky frame of pastel fabric, soft lighting, and laughter. Then the camera tilted and everything fractured. Screaming. A bouquet flying out of someone's hand. A wine glass shattering against concrete. Then came the agents. FBI printed bold across their jackets. 3 of them moving in fast, slipping through the aisle like a rip current. They reached Richard at the altar just as Chloe turned toward him, her mouth half open. He did not run. He did not flinch. He did not say a word. The camera caught my mother, Susan. She was standing just behind Chloe, her hand clutched over her mouth, her eyes wide with absolute horror. The next clip cut in immediately, taken from the side. Richard stood flanked by agents, one reading him his rights. Richard Sterling, also known as Robert Sterling, you are under arrest for wire fraud, money laundering, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit financial crimes across state lines. You have the right to remain silent. The camera jerked toward Chloe. She was on the ground, hands buried in her dress, crying into the fabric. Her veil was tangled in her hair. In the background, the 4-tier wedding cake stood untouched, surreal in its perfection while their world burned. I watched until the video ended, the anchor cutting in to confirm that Richard Sterling had been living under a false identity for over 5 years. I sat back in my chair. No anger, no disbelief. Just a long breath out. I closed the laptop and looked out the window. My phone buzzed again. Julia asking if I was okay. Then Mom, please call me when you're ready. Then my aunt, Chloe's not speaking, no one knows what to do. I set the phone down gently. There was nothing I needed to say. The next morning, the light came in sharp through the blinds. I picked up my phone. 16 missed calls, 11 voicemails, more than 20 unread texts. Mom, my aunts, my cousins. All of them had something to say now. I tapped the voicemail icon and let the first one play. It was Susan. Her voice was breathless, shaky, stripped of her usual composed authority. Sarah, it's me. I don't know how to fix this. Chloe won't talk. She won't come out of her room. Reporters are calling the house. I know you're angry, I know you're hurt, but you've always been the strong one. You hold everyone together, and now without you, everything is broken. She ended the call there. I let the second message roll in without pausing. It was my aunt, begging me to call because Chloe would not eat and kept asking if I had reached out. I stopped listening. I already knew what the rest would be. Same tone, same urgency. The realization, far too late, that something vital had been missing from their world. Me. But it was not love they had missed. It was the labor. The invisible stitching I had done for years to keep them from falling apart. The phone calls, the sacrifices, the willingness to be the one who understood while no one else had to. They were calling now because the scaffolding they leaned on had disappeared. Because I had stopped catching what they dropped. They missed the function, not the person. I did not call them back. Not because I wanted them to suffer, but because I wanted them to sit with the absence they had created. Instead, I pulled out a piece of pale yellow stationery. The kind of paper you buy on vacation and forget to use. I addressed the envelope to the house on Alder Street. I did not write a return address. Inside, the message was short. I hope you find peace. I hope you tell the truth. I hope next time the invitation comes before the apology. Sarah. That was it. No demand, just a statement that hung in the air after a door closed completely. I walked into town, the smell of toasted coconut drifting from the bakery, and slid the letter into the red mailbox. I did not feel lighter, but I felt done. A few days later, sitting on the lanai with my morning tea, Julia sent me a link. FBI confirms multi-state laundering scheme. Anonymous evidence triggered everything. I clicked the link. The article described the chaotic arrest, but buried near the bottom was the only line that mattered to me. Sources confirm that an anonymous tip supported by financial documents sent directly to federal offices led to the investigation. There was no mention of me. I locked my phone and set it down. That evening, as the sky bled orange and gold, a voice message arrived from Chloe. I waited hours before listening. When I finally pressed play, she started with silence, then a slow inhale. I know you sent it, she said. Her voice cracked with effort, like someone learning how to speak truth for the first time. The letter. The files. All of it. I don't know how I didn't see it before, or maybe I did and didn't want to believe it. I'm not here to blame or fix or beg. I just want you to know I saw your post today. The journal. The ocean. That was the message. No apology, no request, just acknowledgement. She saw me. Not the version they once leaned on, but the one who left and did not come back when called. The next morning, I woke up with the sound of the tide brushing against the shore. I poured a cup of Kona coffee and stepped out onto the deck. There was no news waiting, no one asking when I would return. It felt like freedom, the kind you actively choose. I opened my journal and turned to a new page. I wrote only one sentence. I didn't need to go back. I was already home. This was never about making them regret or pay. It was about releasing the weight I had carried on their behalf. The weight of being the one who warned, the one who was told to quiet down and be less difficult. All my life I had been their glue, their fixer, their shield. Now, for the first time, I was not anything for anyone except me. I chose peace and no one gets to take it from me. If you have ever been the one left off the invitation, the one who held everything together while no one saw you breaking, the one who stayed quiet so others could feel comfortable, I hope you know this. You are not invisible. You are not wrong for remembering, and you are not alone. If this story feels like a piece of yours too, I would love to hear it. Leave a comment below, share your moment, or just let me know you are here. Maybe we are not as alone as we think. Subscribe to my channel for more stories like this.